Hi, and welcome to JD and Liz Talk. I'm JD Glass.
I'm Liz McMullen. On today's show, we'd like to welcome artist, author, Xeric Winner, Eisner nominee, and all-around queen of cool, Kris Dresen, to the show. Hey, Kris.
It's good to be the queen.
So, is there a special chair that comes with that?
I don't know. You tell me. Is it elected or is it
I thought you inherited
online?
that.
How does that work?
I thought you could have earned that one.
How does that work?
I just want to know if the chair's comfortable.
You know, is there a coup involved? I don't know.
Was it bloodless coup?
Oh, never bloodless. No.
No. A lot of red pens involved.
Paper cuts and stuff like that.
I've got a few. So, okay. You know, everyone always wants to ask you about drawing and writing and how you put all that together. You know, you make incredible stories. You know, you show and tell. But what I really want to know is about fuzzy logic. How much of a part do your fuzzy friends and your family take place in, or part in your creative process?
I mean the cats.
Yeah, it would be the cats. Physically and ghosts.
I had two cats when I started doing this 20 years ago. Then I had three, and I'm down to one. And the first cat didn't care. Stayed away. Second cat was bad. And I had her since I was a kitten. And since I was a kitten, jeez.
Somebody had to
No Freudian slip there at all. Not at all. No. I had her since I was a kitten, and she slept on my desk every time I worked. So everything I've created in the last 20 years until she passed away a few years ago, she approved. Meaning she stepped on it, licked it, a few times tried to throw up on it, spilled ink on it. There were many times I did freelance projects that had some kind of inky cat paw outside the trim line. That was her little signature stamp of approval. And yeah, so she was the supervisor, the artistic supervisor of almost every thing I did.
Sounds like quite a slave driver.
Yes, she was.
Well, my puppy is 7 months old, and he is a boxer. And he likes to be loved up, and I usually, give him a very thorough scratching and whatnot. But he always wants that to be happening. And so I was like, all right, I scratch you. You need to lay down, and then mommy needs to go on the computer. Otherwise, it's like all in there. But we've transitioned because when I'm in my reading chair, he can be off to the side so I can scratch him while I'm in the midst of doing something else.
I find that most fuzzies want to really, really pay attention to me when I'm really, really, really in the middle of it. Like really thick and heavy and just, I must get this done now, and my flow is going, and blah, blah, blah. And I want to sit on your hands, which are on the keyboard. That's okay, right?
You don't mind if I, put my tail up your nose,
Oh, exactly. Or how about the whap across the eyes? Kris, I'm sure you've gotten that.
That or the cat who finds the most expensive pen on the desk to throw off the edge to show displeasure, and of course it lands tip down, and it's like, then I'm going to the art store to spend another $50.
By the way, it is a windy night where I am recording, and so the windows are rattling from time to time. So if you hear that, it's mood background music. And I'd like to dive into another question for you. In addition to being a visual storyteller, you're an evocative artist. Who are the artists that you say influenced you, and who do you find most compelling?
I should have studied for this.
I gave you the cheat sheet.
I know, and I didn't read it. Just like in college. Come on.
I handed it to you at lunch. I slipped it into your books.
I thought it was multiple choice. Damn.
Well, it is. It's an open book test, though.
Do you want fine artists? Do you want contemporary artists? Do you want comic book artists?
Well, how about when you were a kid?
When I was a kid,
yeah.
I read comics since I was a kid, and the first comic I was really, really into was Dennis the Menace. Love Hank Ketchum. He used to be able to have those little Dell Golden Key or somewhere, these little digest-sized books, big fat books at the grocery store for like 75 cents, and they had like a 6 months worth of comics in there. Get the Dennis the Menace ones, and they had Family Circus a lot. I wasn't a fan of Family Circus, but you could get it at the grocery store, and it was a comic, so I read it.
Right.
So that's Bill Keane. I don't think he influenced my drawing. Well, but you know what? Maybe he did, because he had a kind of a realistic style with details in the houses and stuff like that, which I guess shows up in my work too.
Say in the cleanness of your lines, I can see the Bill Keane actually if I think about it.
Yeah, that really kind of like pre-discovering what Japanese artists do and European artists. Back in the 70s before we even knew Europe existed.
Right.
Before it was discovered. So there's that. And we read a lot of Archie comics, so there's a lot of Archie influence in there, in the sense that that's what you get at the grocery store. Little digests and stuff. My mom was actually very supportive of that. So she was like, when we go to the grocery store, get groceries, and you get a fistful of Archie Digest, and some Menace. Hey, there's a new Family Circus book, get that too. So that's like the early years, the early introduction to it.
And when you were what about high school? Like what were you up to then?
Well, high school's in the time of, if you're into comics as a kid, high school's the time you stop reading comics because they're for kids and they're so stupid. So I had stopped reading by the time I got to high school.
See, I had the exact kind of opposite experience because, the first comics I ever read were my mother's, and she had Dennis the Menace, Little Lulu, what was it, Richie Rich, Casper, Wendy, all of those, and she also had True Romance.
I never read those.
Well, the thing about the True Romance comics is that they look a lot like the DC Batman type comics from the 70s.
Yes,
it's got that same noir look and feel, So I didn't understand when I was reading the True Romance ones. I was little, so I didn't get it, but I understood the pictures, and of course, the stories were made for kids, so I got them. And I didn't start reading comics again until I actually was in high school. Because I stopped for a while, and I don't know why, I guess because Mom stopped buying them. Although Archies were a constant.
Archies were a constant too, I still read them.
Yeah, they were an absolute constant. And then I was in Europe, and I was with my brother, and we were taking these long-ass trains cross-country, and, like 7, 12, 14-hour rides, and I needed to read something. So I discovered they had these, like, little digest-sized comics, World War II comics, that were actually really, really damn good. But they also had a lot of, like I said, I needed to read, and I'll read anything. So Batman, X-Men, and in fact the titles that I ended up keeping up with once I got back to the States, and that's all because I was bored on the train. So,
JD, didn't in Punk Like Me, didn't they go to a comic store?
Yes, they did, and in fact that's the comic store I used to go to. That's the store they went to.
So I thought so. I thought that like they were really into a particular comic, and it related to who they were as friends, and getting the latest issue. It got my head like Tower Records and other kind of places where you would go in and kind of chill and pick stuff up or not.
Yeah, that was that comic referred to in that book, and probably in a couple others, is Love and Rockets. Which is not reissued, but restarted within the last couple of years. It's a really great title. I think, Kris, you're the only person I know who hasn't really read Love and Rockets.
I have this giant book. It's like the size of a giant old school Sears catalog.
Yeah, it's a coffee table.
Yeah, and from everything everybody's told me, it should totally be my thing, my wheelhouse, and I start reading it, and I'm sorry, I feel so bad.
I have to just find you the right place to start. That's really what it comes down to. That big old thing is, it starts in the wrong place, and you kind of just drop into it.
I mean, I was aware of it, and I would go to the comic book store and be like, everybody's talking about this, and I go, But back to the high school thing, I stopped reading comics, but I got really into comic strips. Because
awesome.
it was 80s.
Yes.
It was 80s, so you had Bloom County, which was...
that was awesome.
Yeah, so Bloom County, which is awesome, and I started getting to Doonesbury because of that.
Calvin and Hobbes. For better or for worse. Yes.
What else? Oh, there was like a ton of really great ones, and Andrews McMullen were putting out those great like 8x8 books, which I still have bookshelves of. But I would just read those over and over again. I mean, Lynn Johnson was just brilliant for aging her characters throughout that. So I was really into comic strips. That was a more sophisticated for someone because it is in the newspaper, and adults read the newspaper.
That's true. Well, I always was addicted to the Sunday comics, and I admit that I did look at Family Circus first, because it was kind of in the front.
Yep.
Yeah. But that would be followed by Dennis the Menace. Sundays were always the best. because you had those double rows.
Yeah, yeah.
With full stories. And I followed the Phantom because that was fun.
Yeah, we did have the Phantom here. Yeah.
And Brenda Starr.
Brenda Starr. I used to read, what was it? Steve McQueen or something like that.
I know.
Is somebody playing with the slinky in the background? I hear.
That's my chair. I apologize.
It's like a slinky, a beautiful. When I was a senior in high school, just before I guess accepted stuff to go to college, I loved the movie The Crow, and so I got the graphic novel The Crow, and I was in love. I was absolutely in love with all of it, like the language and the visuals, and I even was, this was expensive at the time, making color copies and sending it to the girl who was going to be my roommate first year in college, and I was just like, I was taken over, and it was so much more awesome than the movie, and I was madly in love with the movie as well.
That was a really, really phenomenal work, and one of the things that makes it kind of iconic and unusual is that it was an independently produced work that just blew up in some of the best ways. As a contemporary story for its time, I think it really described the temper of the times in most major cities.
And also, and it was out of that whole 80s black and white boom that brought Love and Rockets, and there was that, and there was all those independent comics that were coming out of nowhere, because people discovered you could print black and white comics yourself, you could afford it. So that's where all that came out of, and independent companies started sprouting up, and that was one of the breakout ones that made everybody want to draw comics back then.
Well, I'm glad that everybody did, especially you.
When you're doing your graphic novels or making comics, do you like to sketch with pen, or do you paint, or what kind of mediums do you like to work in?
Ink. I've drawn ink since I was in second grade. I can't paint at all. Brushes confound me. I'll sketch in pencil first, but everything is ink, and I've used ink, like I said, almost my entire drawing career. I started when I was 7.
So, like, you were talking about, like, good pens before. What are some snazzy ones that you like? What's your preference?
Well, I'm notorious for using a technical pen called Rapidographs, and they're precise drawing pens. Draftsmen usually use them for drawing, like, schematics and stuff like that before CAD and all that existed. They're notoriously difficult to use. You can only use them at a certain angle or so the ink won't flow. They clog in a heartbeat. And my dad brought me an old one home. He was cleaning out some coworker's desk, and he had an old one. And he gave it to me. He said, "Hey, here's ink." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And I abused this thing. It was clogging constantly. And I think my parents on the sketchbooks were drawing like a really rag paper. And these are basically needle-thin points. They look like little, like, hypodermics. And
so we can use them for tattoos, is what you're saying?
I actually do have some rapidograph tattoos on my fingers from where I've stabbed myself. And they use India ink, so it is real hardcore. It's not like ballpoint pen.
Also, I'm putting a sign up back there. Tattoos here.
But you can only get, like, ellipses and stuff like that.
Have you ever worked with, like, a calligraphy pen?
I don't like them. I just got so used to using the rapidograph, and they had, I think actually the point where each line width is a separate size, at the point where I had, there was like 20 pen sizes, and any given page I will use most, if not all of them, on the page. And they're color-coded, so I got to the point where I could just know what line I want. I go, okay, that's the red pen, that's the pink one, that's the yellow one. People used to watch me work, were like, "You're insane." I'm like, "Yeah, pretty much."
Yeah, but the work that you come out with is phenomenal, so it requires a certain level of insanity. I think anybody who masters craft, everybody else thinks they're a little nuts. But how else do you become a master, right?
Exactly. I tried dip pens and brushes, and it just didn't work. I had to go back to my, my crazy tech pens.
So now with the whole digital thing, what are you preferring to do? Rapidographs or the digital ink?
I love rapidographs, but then, you hit middle age and your vision changes. And something used to be crystal clear is just not so clear anymore. And the pens I'm using are super fine line, like hairline. You can look at the art. And I could not see it. I'm like, I know I'm touching the page. I can feel I'm touching the page. I see a smudge. I think that's a line. So I had to convert to digital. Now I use a Cintiq, which is digital, so I can blow up 2,000% and make my itty-bitty lines. But they're, like, huge. I can zoom back out and go, I can spend, like, 3 hours on a piece of art that's usually, like, a 1x1 square, which I have done. And I'm like, oh, this is even sadder. So I can make lines that are pixel wide, So, which no one will ever see, but I know they're there.
But the end result, again, is just absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, thank you. I try.
You succeed. You absolutely succeed.
I think we have a mutual admiration society going on.
I do believe you're right. So, in addition to using pens and pets, because, pet hair just makes everything go so much smoother and adds to that joy of putting in lines or smudging them. Music.
That was a smooth transition.
Whatever. So, no, really, music. So you've got, here's your ideal setup. A cat is harassing you in their preferred manner.
Yes.
You have your pens, your pencils, and your Cintiq all warmed up and ready to go. You have a caffeinated beverage.
Just one?
Lined up.
Okay. Awesome. I like this picture you paint.
Thank you. I actually can work with a brush every now and again. So, I have a skill, a sort of semi-skill with that. What are you listening to?
What am I listening to? Oh, yeah, ask me the hard questions, why don't you? It depends. If I don't need to shut the world out, and it's, just open speakers in a room, let's see, U2 is default.
Okay, absolutely. Any particular album?
My absolute favorite is Unbearable Fire.
I think that tends to be the number one favorite for just about everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am one of the few that does like discotheque.
I actually like it too.
That
So.
whole album, well, not all, there's a few punkers there.
It's at the Playboy Mansion.
In Miami.
Oh, yeah, those two. But they're kind of almost the same. And equal in their badness.
Their suckiness, yeah.
Yeah.
So I do like that.
Except for those two.
Do you ever work in a coffee shop, leave the house and just kind of be in the creative noise?
Oh, God, no, because it always happens whenever you do that. The moment you pull out a sketch or Spencer, are you drawing me? It's like, no. That people come to talk to you.
Oh, no.
Anti-social person in the world, it's like, no, just no. And they, it seems to be this, universal, you're drawing, therefore I can talk to you, when that is such the opposite.
Oh, no. That sucks.
See, now that's funny. It's got to be like, how cats go to the person who doesn't want them. See, now, when I'm drawing on the bus or the ferry or anything like that, I actually am drawing the person. They never ask me about it. Although I've had them preen on a few occasions, which I think is pretty funny. She's drawing me. Yes, I am.
I was drawing in a meeting last week, and the two women sitting next to me were like, what are you drawing? What are you drawing? I'm like, we're in a big meeting here. I'm like, I'm doing this because I'm not paying attention, but, don't draw attention to the fact I'm not paying attention,
This is not a sidebar conversation. Any particular kitty?
No, just, a little kid killed 20 minutes at a time.
All right, so when you want to shut the world out, what do you put on?
Then I go to my dark teen years and let the closet metalhead out.
There's something about you in the closet.
Yes, my love of metal. A bad 80s hair metal.
I think you've just come out.
I don't think there's good 80s hair metal, is there?
No, that would be the 90s.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I'll put on my child's love of Judas Priest. Love me some Judas Priest. Who else? I will have a soft spot for Rat. You figure you could go hairish, but only a couple of songs.
Oh, the things I learned about you.
Hey, it's secret. Shh, don't tell anybody.
I think you're out.
But my go-to favorite is Rammstein.
Yes.
Or Rammstein,
Depends on what country you're in at the time.
Exactly. That's the one I can just put in the headphones and just crank it out and then, realize I can't hear anything that's going on in the apartment and I should maybe turn it down a little bit.
Just in case there's a fire.
Hey, a fire, phone rings, I don't know.
Tornado.
Don't sneak up on you, that kind of thing.
Do you have a favorite tune?
Yeah, I'll be the cliche and go do host. That's the first one I ever heard. It's the first one anybody ever heard.
I was about to say, I think it's
really good.
Everybody knows that one, even if you don't know who the band is.
Yeah, you know that song, yeah. So.
Awesome. Yeah. Very, very awesome. So how many hours of deafness do you say you go through when you're listening? And actually, what's your favorite work span?
My work, what?
Like your favorite span of time to work. Like I can say for me, if I have the block of time to do it, I like an 8 to 10 hour day.
Oh, absolutely. If on a Saturday, if I get going right away. I can start from 2 in the afternoon and work till midnight, even past midnight. I can go 12, 14 hours. And I'll realize it's tomorrow already, so I might want to get some sleep. But then when I'm really putting a lot of work into graphic novel, I'll work till 2 in the morning, go to sleep till like 7, and get up and work all the next day until like 5 at night. So I will put in like 20 hours in 2 days.
Right.
So, it's like a part-time job.
I actually kind of feel like it's more like a full-time job.
Yeah.
Because I know that if I can get away with it, I'll work on it all day, all night.
Mm-hmm.
I just keep going until I'm done, and I'm kind of a maniac.
Yeah, my rule is like I can work. I know how to draw and draw pretty clean. I know the minute I make one mistake, okay, I'm getting tired. Second mistake made, go to bed, or else I'm just going to destroy a page. And I've worked through it and destroyed many pages, so I've learned to stop. Self-control.
You've paced yourself.
Yes.
So in addition to doing some wicked good sketching, you play some instruments, and the thing that I'm curious about is the creative energy that gets you in front of a page. Is it similar to or different than, picking up an instrument and going for it?
They're two separate things. Music's a hobby. It's like something I want to do creative when I don't want to be creative, if that makes sense. It's two separate mindsets.
Mm-hmm.
I suck at music, so I can sit there and just be like, oh, I'll figure out a song. It kind of sounds like it. Oh, I'm impressed by myself. I kind of play a song. I get like kind of halfway through it, and it kind of sounds like it. And it's like, yay, success.
Well, you play more than one instrument.
I do.
Well, you attempt to play more than one instrument. That's a
I can play a guitar. I can screw around with other instruments, yes.
Gotcha.
There's a difference.
Reminds me of my favorite artist, Pink, who tries to learn a different instrument for each tour that she does.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she, I think her first tour was drums. And her tour before this one, the Funhouse tour, was guitar. And her recent one, Truth About Love, was piano.
Well, guitar is appropriate. I mean, she did play one at the last during the Funhouse tour, so that seems to have been appropriate. Plus, it helps her as an artist, maintain longevity in the field. That's like the number one thing that people tell you when you say that you want to be a musician and you're a singer, a vocalist. They tell you learn an instrument,
Mm-hmm.
you will not last.
Well, I think one of the things that is fantastic and amazing about her, especially as she's evolved, is that she's got some crazy athletic stuff going on in her shows. There, acrobatics and oh my God, please don't fall into the audience, and she's got that going, which I like a lot. And recently, she had done an interview, and they had asked her what she, if she saw herself as a role model, and if she felt she was a role model for Gaga and what's her name, Miley Cyrus, and she just laughed. And she's just like, no, not, at least not for those two ladies. And it, no, it's kind of like Sinead O'Connor went off and like, you can keep your clothes on. You've got a gorgeous voice. There's no reason for you to be doing the Hot Mess tour. And
that's also the Hot Mess tour.
It was. I mean, like, she slides down her own tongue, and she fake blowjobs. Somebody with a Bill Clinton mask on. And what I find interesting about
she changed her name to Monica from Miley.
Okay. Yes. So anyway, the reason why I dig Pink is because she evolves and she does more awesome things as she matures. And Kris, is there an artist that you have your eye on, that you've been a big fan for quite some time, and you like the way they're grooving or they're evolving as an artist?
Like a musician?
Yeah.
That's not something I really focus on. I know people like artists to stay the same because they click with something, and most people don't like change. I actually like change.
Mm-hmm.
But you could be like AC/DC, who has not changed in 800 albums. It will never change, but it still sounds good. They know what they do it well, and they crank it out. And you get an AC/DC album. It's like, hey, it's another AC/DC album. It's not a new one. It's another one.
Like, I love that.
But you love that because you know what you're getting. But then there's bands like U2 who experiment.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll fall on their face. There's some, there's a couple albums you're like, I'm never listening to that again. But then they do have really good songs that come out.
Line of the Horizon.
I actually like that album.
Well, the joke for my parents, my father in particular, he likes Jackson Browne. He's like, and his best friend goes, the fast song or the slow song?
Is she really going out with him?
So, like, since you're a graphic artist and you've seen things evolve over the decades, like, what are some of the artists you would like to point out that our listeners might want to give a gander to?
In terms of what, comics?
Yeah, something current.
Well, everybody knows Alison McDowell, so I'm not going to put that one out there.
Mm-hmm.
See, here's the thing. I draw comics, but I don't really pay attention to them.
Well, you can't. I mean, I write books. I don't read a lot.
Yeah.
Because I'm busy writing.
I mean, the most brilliant thing that's out there, and unfortunately, the creator is it Lou Gehrig's MS? Is Cul-de-sac.
Oh.
Yes.
And the collection of the entire it was a newspaper strip, and it was brilliant and funny and the freshest thing since Calvin and Hobbes. But the creator has become ill, and he stopped the strip. But the complete collection of his book is coming out. The comic is coming out next month, so that's a great one to look at. If you like comics and comic strips, it's an old school comic strip, but it's very contemporary. Alice, the little girl lead, is like the funniest thing since Calvin and Hobbes. So there's that. But there's so much out there right now, and nothing that I go to the comic book store, I go, eh.
Mm-hmm.
And online there's tons of stuff, but nothing that I want to, that I have to see every day, or I've just become so... It's not when I was a kid, X-Men with John Byrne, drawing it, and writing. I mean, I'm obsessed with that, and you had to get all the issues.
The world is still obsessed with it. That's why the movies are all based
on that stuff, right? Because it's really good, and at the time... It was like 1980s, so I'm like 13, 14, and that's like the perfect time. You're a teenager, you think you're a mutant, things are changing, and reading this, and it's about all of that alienation stuff you're feeling, and that you just clicked with it. So, but I don't
plus
have...
with the X-Men, they've got that whole special sort of queer factor going on.
Exactly. It's a school they were in, even though they're in their 30s, but whatever. But I don't see much of that anymore. I mean, I used to be really into Doonesbury and stuff like that, and I've kind of stopped reading that over the years because, like, in the 80s, everybody's into politics. Everybody was all about free South Africa and, and feed the world and all that, and that's why those comic strips really hit hard.
But we were also worried about, being, like, nuclear dust.
Yeah,
So we were concerned.
Reagan is, trying to end the world and stuff like that.
We were concerned, so we paid attention to politics because we thought we might die.
Exactly, and so... Now I don't follow politics so much anymore, so reading that stuff, I'm like, who are these politics? I don't get that joke, So, Calvin and Hobbes had its time and its place, and there's nothing like it. So, I'm sure there'll be a new wave of something, but right now I'm just kind of like, I started drawing comics because I didn't see the comics I wanted to read on the shelf. I still don't, so I still make them for myself.
That's awesome.
That's the best reason.
One of my favorite Ani lyrics is "Coming of age in a plague of Reagan and Bush."
How accurate.
Exactly, and how capitalism gunned down democracy. So, reminds me of what, like, you guys were talking about. Are you a culture chick? Do you like to go to museums or go to live music, opera, symphony, ballet, rock and roll? Like, what do you like to do?
I'm notoriously antisocial, so I will go see shows for artists I really, really like.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're small venues, but like big concerts, I think the last big one was a U2 concert, and it's like, man, why is my dad, mom, every one of these people here? It's like, oh, because they're your age, And it's like, it's a concert for parents at this point. You don't see kids going to concerts. And it was a big space, and I'm like, yeah, I think if you look I think that's Bono down there. Kind of binoculars so I can see. You're paying $200 a ticket to watch an ant run around stage.
Those big screens.
Because I want to pay $200 to watch TV in a football stadium.
And freeze.
And freeze.
And have plastic bottles thrown at you.
Yeah, then maybe get out of the parking lot before the next day.
Was that the How to Love and Atomic Bomb? concert?
I think the last one I saw was right after 9/11, like right after. So it was All You Can't Leave Behind.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's the last one I saw. And yeah, so whatever. A lot of posturing and stuff like that. So, and but museums, I'm in Chicago. We have museums and a lot of the best art in the world here. So yeah, I do. Not as often as you think because I'm lazy. But if I saw the Hopper exhibit.
Oh, you were busy.
Yeah. I'll go see like something special like the Hopper exhibit or stuff like that. I'm not an opera fan, not a ballet fan. That's what PBS is for.
I'm actually interested in the fine artists that you find inspiring.
Well, I love Hopper. I mean, that's my guy there. I mean,
what about Hopper gets you?
When you see stuff like Nighthawks, everybody knows Nighthawks, but when you go see you look at it like he's so much detail in there. But when I actually went and saw his a show, it was a retrospective of the vast span of his career. And you look at his figures, and basically, he's the master of light. He can paint a room, and you can tell exactly what time of day it is and which direction it's facing, because he just gets light so perfectly. And I'm looking at this one painting of his that's a woman, and you see the painting like reproduced in books, and you think she's got these beautiful full lips and eyes, mascara. You go up to the painting, you look at it, the eyes are 2 dots of paint, and the lips are just a smear of red. I'm looking at it going, I'm speechless. I'm looking at this going, how is this even possible? Because I'd be sitting there with a vitagraph the size of a hair, drawing every little last line, every little last eyelash in there, every little last little dot for the people, and all that. He just goes plug, swipe, done. Now, granted, he's a brilliant craftsman, so that's where that really comes from. But to watch and just see how the paint is just, it's not even slapdash. It's just such expertly placed, and he knew exactly what he was doing. He knew what colors to mix. When you see his work reproduced, the colors aren't there's no justifying the colors. If they look good in person, the paintings, the reds are fire engine red, the greens are bright green. His colors are amazing. So that's really inspiring. And his subject matter, he does these very isolated figures in empty rooms, and I love that kind of stuff because you're in this moment, and you're in that moment with that person, but that person doesn't live there. So that's what I love about his work.
To me, they all seem to be sort of like studies of the human condition. They're very existential.
Yes, very much so.
They're very, very existential. And one of the things, it's funny when I think about it, but when you talk about it, it's not that funny. Every time I see anything about Hopper, I always automatically think of El Greco. Mm-hmm. Always. It's an automatic correlation in my mind to El Greco because I see that light. Mm-hmm. That play on light.
Yeah.
So who besides Hopper?
I always liked Van Gogh.
With or without the ear?
Yeah, Van Gogh. Just because when you see his original works, just how thick the paint is and the anger and the frustration that are in these brush and knife strokes in it. And what you see in our history books, like, yeah, it looks pretty, but you see the actual emotion in the physical work. I love that. I absolutely love that.
The attack on canvas.
Yeah, I always said I'm not interested. It's a process junkie. I like the process behind creating things. I'm not so interested in the final product. Mm-hmm. It's like people always ask me, oh, that strip you did, blah, blah, blah. And I have no idea what they're talking about. It's like, yeah, that strip you did. And they'll throw a name. I don't remember my own work. But I can look at it and go, oh, yeah, I was listening to this song. I was in that mood. That was happening that week. There's all history and the process behind it. And the final result, I go, okay, it's done. I put it away and move to the next thing. I'm more interested in creating the work than the actual finished piece.
That makes sense, though. It's because it's a constant evolution, of who you are, where you're going, So, that's nice.
Yeah.
So if you had to choose, who would you choose between artists? Who would you choose, and why?
Choose artists for what?
Just because
my
you had
softball
to.
team?
Yeah. Don't worry about hurting our hands. Yes. The softball team, but you only have one member on your softball team. Oh, it's because you're all going to a deserted island.
It's Hopper.
Okay, I figured that, but I just, just making sure. Awesome. I will stand by Matisse.
Not a bad choice.
They had this really rad rendering of Matisse in Dublin.
And,
yeah, in a smaller park that had the women dancing, and it's fascinating. And I love seeing fine art tattoos.
Yes. There's this guy in Brooklyn who does them in miniature.
Mm-hmm.
He has these absolute phenomenal reproductions. They're like 2 by 2, and they're perfect. Perfect. He's got like a waiting list that's like 1,000 years long, and he charges like $1,000. But he's truly gifted in reproducing these things.
Well, you see body art, and sometimes tattoos are always some kind of conversation starter. But this woman I was dating many years ago, she had like surrealist tattoos and all this other. I was like, this is a person I want to sit down and talk to. It's not necessarily the kind of art that I'm into, but I'm like, that is just so great. Because that means that you have something in your noggin. Not that you have to have like traditional classic stuff. And then when I got a little older, I worked at Aperture, Fine Art Photography magazine, and I was wondering, did you ever get into photography? I mean, appreciating it.
I appreciate it. I had to take photography classes in college, and and I actually worked in a photo lab for 7 years, developing people's film and stuff like that. So your love for photography goes completely out the window. They got digital cameras because then poor little 19-year-olds like me don't have to be exposed to the harsh realities of what sickos people are.
Oh my God.
Private porn.
Yeah.
It's like I was a lifeguard for 2 years outside, for 10-hour days, and that cured me of the sun.
Yeah.
I mean, like I will never, ever sunbathe again. Like I can do an activity outside and get color from that, but actually just laying there and baking in the sun, never again.
So you've been cured of your photograph, but you take good shots.
Well, it's photography. I mean, I really envy people who can really work with light that way. I can't see light that way. They can go, oh, perfect, and they capture it. It's like, there's a rainbow and an American flag, and even though there's something there, they found somehow captured the lens.
And there's a spider and God.
And a cat, being cute, and a baby, saluting, and, they found that moment, and National Geographic loved them, whatever. But,
or the star, whatever.
I took a picture of my thumbs in front of the lens, That's kind of what I do.
I disagree.
I think it's being able to, I can compose in that space, because I usually draw in a square or rectangle anyway, so I can at least compose. And, Photoshop, everybody's an awesome photographer can Photoshop.
You don't know how to use Photoshop.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like anything, you just have to be, photography is great. I had some great teachers, I saw some really amazing people come out of it, and it just wasn't something I clicked with, because you have to kind of find the moments that are creating it. I mean, you can build a set and all that, but if you take a picture, it's like, and I've caught some good stuff by complete fluke. It's like, oh, okay. But then you read about all those photojournalists. They'll take 100,000 pictures, and they find that one that makes them famous, which is understandable, but I haven't got that patience.
So, talking about one visual feast to another, this episode is coming out on Cinco de Mayo. And I think sometimes cooking is an art form and can be very visually exciting, especially when you're dealing with all these wonderful types of peppers and whatnot. Do you get into cooking?
I actually love cooking. I'm a damn good cook.
Yes, you are.
Well, cooking is like anything else. You create. It's layers of stuff,
It's combinations that work.
Yes, it's building. It's like I draw a lot of itty lines. It's the same thing as cooking. It's like, okay, I got potato. Okay, put some cheese on it. Okay, put some salt and pepper. I want some paprika, sour cream, be good. That chives. Okay, put some barbecue seasoning on it.
That sounds like food ADD.
Freaking fantastic. I don't remember how I did it. Quick, take a picture, put it on Facebook.
So, because it's the Cinco de Mayo episode,
yes,
we're going to talk about Mexican food. Right?
Yay!
So, do you have a favorite plate or dish that's Mexican flavored or inspired?
Well,
or do you just like it all?
I like Mexican food. I am not ashamed to go to a Taco Bell even though
that's not Mexican food.
I know, but it's still it's meat product in a crispy shell.
That is not a meat product. That is Little Tony's dog.
I don't care.
Hey, have you noticed that there are no Chinese food places next to Taco Bells?
There's always pizza and stuff.
But there's Soylent Green is people.
Yes, it is. It's delicious.
We taste like bacon.
No, I do like authentic Mexican food. I mean, the real kind where you get you get a taco. It's a corn tortilla stuff, and they're the teeny tiny ones. There's two of them. There's not the one big old wrapped around a chimichanga burrito, deep fried, and then cheese product sauce on top of it. Good carnitas is always good. Love that.
I love fresh guacamole, like when they make it for you right tableside.
Yeah, that's the good stuff.
Oh, I'm a big fan of guacamole. Mm-hmm. I could kind of drink it, actually. I might swim in it.
It's great for your skin.
Actually, yes.
The avocado.
I am definitely a fan of the guac. Mm-hmm. So, do you make any Mexican food?
I make good fish tacos.
Really? So, tell us about your fish tacos.
I take some fish, I make a taco.
Just expand just a bit more. Besides the part where the fish.
Well, you use tilapia. That's my favorite.
Okay.
You can either fry it, which is okay, but I prefer to pan grill it.
Okay.
Corn tortillas, the soft ones. Crunchy is no, it's an American thing. Stop it.
Sour cream is probably an American thing too.
It is, but I always corn tortilla. And I make cabbage slaw with a little not sour cream, but something. What do they call it? Crema.
Yes.
Yeah, and a little lime and a little cilantro. Toss that with the cabbage slaw. Put in there a couple slices of avocado if you're lucky, and that's a damn good fish taco.
I love cilantro.
Cilantro too.
It's just the way you said that. I love cilantro. Tier 1 makes a really great cilantro candle. Seriously, they
do. They now?
Yes, they make it's a cilantro candle. It's actually really, really.
Do you have chewing awesome. On it, like those wax bottles here?
I just sort of like go when I pass them by, and I've had them because I like to smell them, and your whole home smells nice and fresh and rich, and then you want a fish taco.
Oh my! Well, another thing that I think is rad, it's not related to Cinco de Mayo, but it's spicy, is I love things like coconut made with lemongrass. Like, going to, a Thai restaurant?
I was about to say, we're going Thai.
I love Thai food, and I love, their spicy soups, but there's something just so wonderful about coconut milk, and then you add all these other wild things, and then you have things that smell awesome, like jasmine rice, and God,
See, I gotta admit that, you say coconut to me, and the first thing I'm thinking is suntans. And the next thing I'm thinking is pina coladas. I'm kind of really, really programmed in that way.
That's very 80s for me because before people were paying attention to skin cancer, late 70s, 80s, and we come to the same area. I live in Ortley Beach, which is in Jersey Shore, and I just remember distinctly growing up, the smell of Tropicana, or any kind of oil that people would baste themselves with to get really tan.
Just yourself in baby oil, flip over every couple of minutes. You go home looking like French toast.
Oh my God, my cousin totally was all over that, and all of his friends were bodybuilders because they all liked Arnold Schwarzenegger and whatnot. And it was true. He was all of his friends were beautiful, and now as a grown woman, I was like, I wish I could see this group of men and see who are family. Who of you gorgeous men like other gorgeous men?
My brother used to say that guys who show up for other guys, they're all a little gay. Even if they're not, they are.
They're a lot gay.
Well, they don't admit that, but
Just expands the definition of homoerotica.
That's actually there's a huge big thing about that. Who's the
Mapplethorpe?
Who the artist who did all those ads for the military in during World War II? All those ads are deliberately homoerotic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can't remember who it is.
Is it David something, I think?
Something, I can't remember.
I know that Gaultier's ads, and they sort of follow along in that very homoerotic, male homoerotic gaze. So,
Kris, because I love non sequiturs. What kind of, like, are you into manga and anime and all that kind of jazz coming from Asia?
Actually, I'm not. Even though everybody says the way I draw reminds them of it, I am not influenced or like it at all. I mean, I watched Speed Racer as a kid, and what else they had? They like Prince Planet and other stuff they imported. But it never, I never wanted to draw like that. They have, now you go to Barnes & Noble and you trip over the entire, manga section. But I never got into it. I mean, there's some beautiful artwork. I love Hayao Miyazaki. His films are brilliant and they're gorgeous, but I don't want to draw and create those worlds. I love to look at them and live in them for the 2 hours the film runs, but I don't want to go and create that.
What kind of worlds do you like to create?
Oh, mine are very filled with people who are very distrustful of everybody around them.
So you have antisocial characters in your work?
Yeah, it's more about relationships and stuff like that. Negative relationships, there you go. Am I wrong? No, I have a couple happy things. It's more about the human condition and how people relate and don't relate to each other and how dysfunction rules all.
So you do some cover art for books. How did you get into that?
JD asked me.
That was very girly of me, right?
No, I thought that was very, very, to the point.
It's very butch of me.
The giggle you mean? Well, no, hey, we all do it from time to time. What happened was, in a nutshell, I'd keep it as brief as possible, I got involved with Prism Comics, and one of the guys there was like, hey, I want you to review this work, and it was Kris Dresen's work, and I was like, shit, this stuff is great, and I sent her a note and said, hey, I'm going to write a review, so she sent me some more stuff, and I'm like, we should know each other.
Well, you said you sent me the review, and I said, okay, and you never sent it.
I think I got eaten by my email.
Yeah, that happened a lot with you.
There was a lot of technical issues going on at the time.
And then you emailed again. I said, yeah, never got it. You said, I'll email it again. You never emailed it. Still never seen that review.
It's on 2 drives ago. Yeah. So and now I can't write it. I could rewrite it, but I actually can't because it would be considered,
conflict of interest.
Something like that. Yeah. So anyhow, she sends me her stuff, and in addition to what I've already looked at, and I'm like, this is me in a different medium. And Kris read my stuff, and I think you had the same exact response.
Yeah, you sent me Punk Like Me, and I said, if I were to write a book, this would be the book I'd write.
Exactly. I was reading Max and Lily, and I was thinking, if I were to write a comic strip, this is exactly how I would do it. And we finally got to actually talking, and when we finally got to actually talking, we really want to work together. And Kris's sensibility is, first of all, I love her sensibility. I find her work very, very compelling. It's very visceral. The emotion in it is so real, so raw, so to bone, which is how I write. And Kris draws exactly what I see in my head. I mean, exactly. I don't know how she does it, but she really, really does. And so there was no question about who, if I could possibly, convince her to do it, would do my covers, because Kris really perfectly captures exactly what's in my head every single time without fail. And I
love the motion, by the way. I love the motion. I felt like you got to the core of rock and roll, when I don't know which cover it is, but somebody's playing an instrument, I think a guitar, and bent over forward or something.
Oh, well, that's the next Punk and Zen Part 2.
Mm-hmm. And so I saw that. I was like, I've never seen a rendering in pen of something that had such a sense of motion and yet so crisp and together. And I really dug it.
I think all of Kris's work is like that. Sorry, we're talking about you like you're not here.
I'm not here. I checked out 5 minutes ago.
Oh, okay. Will you get my coat?
Okay.
Are you sketching?
No.
No, just patiently sitting here watching.
Are you
yourself.
doodling? Because that happens to me sometimes when my like a part of me has checked out. I start doodling.
So you've got a collection coming out, though.
Yeah, I plan to.
That's, for this fall.
Yes, for this fall. All my work, or most of it, from the last 25 years.
That's going to be awesome. So what are the titles that you're hoping to put in it? What can we hope to see within it?
Oh,
We keep on asking you so many hard questions.
It's my own work. I draw a complete blank. That's a good joke.
See what you did there?
See what you did there? Yeah. I did a lot of single page comics and mini comics back in the early 90s. Those will all be in there. What else? I had some smaller run comics I did on websites. What's the one? Encounter Her, which is the first long form comic I did. That'll be in there. I'll put, there's a project I started called Broken Birdhouse that I never finished, but the pencils are done very tight, and I never published that, but I will put that in this book as a little extra thing. It never got past the pencil stage, but it looks really good for pencils, so there'll be a lot of work in progress, stuff that never saw light of day, and tons of finished stuff. So if you're a Kris Dresen completist, ooh, this is for you.
Yeah, well, there's plenty of Kris Dresen completists out there, and I think there's a lot of people who would love to find that as an introduction to your work. You know, I really, really do. So what are you going to call it?
Her Curve.
Very cool. Awesome. So we're looking, what, October-ish?
Hopefully.
Awesome. And you're going to be at the Left Coast Lesfic Festival. Yes?
Yeah, that's what I'm told.
Awesome.
I think I have a confirmation number telling me so.
I think you're on a panel.
Am I? No,
You may be running the panel.
Oh, okay. I should do some research then. Maybe get to what the topic is.
Probably comics.
Okay, cool.
Or Edward Hopper.
I can do that.
Unless, is he a lesbian?
I don't know. Ask this one.
You guys are so cute to like I feel like not the third wheel is like, oh, they're adorable. The little riffing off of each other and having you both have a rhythm, and I guess it makes sense that reciprocally, I guess, that, you know, she writes the books that you would write and vice versa. And so I think that you guys have a really cool chemistry, and I'm looking forward to seeing more symbiotic work between the two of you. And I've loved listening along and asking questions, unfortunately, unintentionally stumping Kris. And it's been a groovy interview.
It really has. It really has.
Yes, it has been. Thank you.
Thanks, Kris. And thanks for being patient with our questions.
No problem.
And you're going to have to send us the recipe for your fish tacos and coleslaw
All right, I'll
to
do
share with the masses.
that. Okay, cool.
Woohoo!